Hello, travelers and tourists. My name is Mark, and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller who is ready to present you with an opportunity to try out Pathfinder 2nd Edition if you've never had a chance to experience this wonderful game. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder. And today I want to give a welcome to a special guest. This is Pete, the host of the Rise of the Rulelords podcast. Pete, care to introduce yourself?
Yep. Host of Rise of the Rulelords podcast. Most people know me as Rulelord2E on Twitter. I am also Dogs Not Gods, the mod on our Pathfinder 2E. I've been the head organizer for Third Party Con as well as now Beginner Box Days, which we'll be talking about today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It is a pleasure to talk to you. And I will go ahead and tell you, I am excited to learn about this. Though I have played a lot of Pathfinder 2E, my experience with the beginner box is actually very limited. To tell you the full scope of what I know about the beginner box, last year in August, I work at the local high school, and some students approached me and asked if I would do a gaming club. And it sounded like they had a small group of students, so I agreed. And I went and I picked up the beginner box and I brought it to the first club day, and there were 70 students. And I was like, I don't think one beginner box is going to cut it. I need a new plan. So, all I have used the beginner box for is I copied those really fantastic player reference cards and passed out a
Mm-hmm.
couple dozen of those to my students. But unfortunately, I kind of had to go another direction, and I haven't really gotten to use the beginner box the way I originally wanted to. So this is going to be a bit of a journey for me. I know a lot of people have talked about the beginner box is probably one of the best in the TTRPG industry. I hear a lot of people, even people outside of Pathfinder circles, say that they really respect this product that Paizo's put out.
Yep.
And what I understand is there's going to be a series of days coming up where people are going to have an opportunity to play through the adventure in this box and have an opportunity to experience Pathfinder 2E for the first time. So tell us a little bit about the beginner box days.
Yes. So beginner box days, as we're calling it, is now a full week rather than just over one day, or as we promptly changed it into a weekend that it was last year. We decided to have it be over the course of 2 weekends and all the days in between. So it's many days where players will be able to try out the beginner box with experienced game masters. Like you said, the beginner box that Paizo made for Pathfinder 2nd Edition is frankly second to none, I think. I have watched many an unboxing video by people who play other TTRPGs. And, those boxes get players where they need to go, but the
Mm.
Pathfinder 2nd Edition box is a step beyond all of that. It gives you every single thing that you need to start to learn how to play, as well as learn how to be a GM, a game master. Um, if you ever get the physical copy, and I don't know why I didn't grab my mine, but there's plenty of unboxing videos out there by both Pathfinder content creators as well as Dungeons and Dragons or other general TTRPG people that you can look through. It comes with a player guide, so this is something every player can have. Leads you through the basics of character creation, conditions, the action economy, tells you everything that you need to go. Um, I have multiple times uh, said that this book needs to be available to get outside the beginner box, just like on shelves, because that is probably the quickest, most condensed book I've seen that gives you everything that you need to learn how to play. Um, People get intimidated when they look at the core rulebook because it's so big and chunky, but the core rulebook has everything, every single spell, every single feat, every
Mm-hmm.
single item, at least, that is core to playing the game. When really the rules are just a tiny little
Mm-hmm.
sliver of that. And I actually made a meme a while ago showing the breakdown, and uh, it it's not that much. It's not as
Mm-hmm.
intimidating as it looks like. But the beginner box has a book that really shows you how unintimidating it is, and is very gracious in how it leads you to learning how to play. It also provides players with cards that they can hold right in front of them that tell them about basic actions. Has
Mm-hmm.
these little tokens that you can put on to track like how many actions have you used this turn. Um, Tells you about the conditions, so you can have that while you play and just automatically reference it.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with pre-generated characters, so that if you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of character creation, which is also arguably one of the most fun parts of the
Mm-hmm.
game, is coming up with characters that you'll never get to play. Uh, but you can still have a pre-generated character that has all the items that you need to play that, spells loaded, feats loaded, has a little backstory, armor, weapons, all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. So you can just pick it up, and as long as you can read the character sheet, you can get to playing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the coolest innovations that I think that they made is that they have colored dice in the beginner's box. Has a red D20, a yellow D4. And the reason that they do this is so that if this is truly your first time playing a TTRPG, if you have no idea what these multiple hexagonal polyhedral dice are, rather than say roll a D4, the GM can say roll the yellow one,
Mm-hmm.
roll the blue one, roll the green one, and they'll be right there for you. I would love to see a set of better quality version of the dice,
Mm-hmm.
but really all dice work exactly the same. It's just a matter of personal preference about like texture and weight and all of that stuff. Um,
Welcome to
so
Tabletop RPGs. You will become a dice goblin.
you will love your math rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it gives you everything that you need to play, and the adventure is specifically designed to slowly introduce concepts to you as you go on. At first, it's going to have like the basics of combat. Then it's going to start to show you about skills. And it's going to start to show you about conditions and how you need to vary the action economy. How some classes have strengths over certain creatures than the others based off of your powers and abilities. Um, and goes more and more into those things until you get to a secondary level,
Mm-hmm.
which is a whole session among itself, where you really put all of those things into practice that you learned, and you are going to feel a very real Pathfinder 2E experience
Mm-hmm.
with the second level. Uh, it is a perfect introductory method into getting into Pathfinder 2E. I can't think of a better way to help anyone get into the system than actually getting to sit down and play it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then if you are the person who ends up being the game master, it has everything you need to keep on playing for many levels beyond just the first level that the beginner box introduces you at. It comes with pawns, so you can have different adventures. The
Mm-hmm.
map is there, so if you want to have different beginner box adventures with different creatures, you can do that. And that's all with the physical box, which is
Mm-hmm.
to say nothing about the virtual boxes. Beginner Box Days is an event that is taking place virtually,
Mm-hmm.
and so every game is going to be run on a virtual tabletop. There are three main programs for it. There's Roll 20, which is uh, free to access as a player. Um, there is a cost to getting all of the modules for any of these VTTs, so I'll just get that out there right away. There is Fantasy Grounds, and then there is Foundry VTT. arguably a favorite among Pathfinder fans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of those, from what I've heard, come with music, come with sound effects, are layered in such a way that lighting and walls work so you can't see ahead. You can
Mm-hmm.
only see what your character pieces can see. Um, interacts with lighting, has spell effects, even sometimes. Um, it's really incredible getting to play with these official modules for the beginner box as your first time. And that's what players are going to get to experience with beginner box days.
So that sounds awesome, and also like a lot of information to take in.
Yeah,
Um,
it
well,
can be.
uh, so I guess the first question I have is, if someone is interested in this, they want to try Pathfinder 2e, beginner box sounds like the place to start.
Yep.
How do they sign up? How do they get involved in this?
Yes. So the website is beginpf2.com. Uh, that's our official website. It's, just a Google site. It's nothing super pretty, but it has all the information that you need to sign up and register. We're using RPG Chronicles.net as the method of signing up for games. So if you go to beginpf2.com, it'll have a link to the sign up sheet. You're not going to be able to find it by just going to RPG Chronicles.net to try to find it. So you need to go through the website. You can also access it by going to the R Pathfinder 2e subreddit or the R Pathfinder 2e Discord space. Um, we're holding the audio visual portion on the R Pathfinder 2e Discord, so you'll need to go there anyway in order to find your GM. But essentially, the order of operations is go to pf beginpf2.com, find a game that meshes with your schedule. Again, we're having it throughout an entire week. There are going
Mm-hmm.
to be sessions labeled upper level and lower level. You can play both, you could play either. It just depends on what you feel like. You can play with different GMs, or if you're lucky enough and your schedule works out, you can play with the same GM if they're running both of the levels. Um, you go into there, it has all of these boxes that just say sign up, sign up, sign up. And you just click sign up, enter some basic information, and your seat is reserved. The next thing that you do is go to the R Pathfinder 2e Discord space and join the Beginner Box Days channel. That's where you're going to get to interact with other new players, ask questions, which either other players, other GMs, or even us moderators can answer for you. And then you will find the space that your game master set up so that you can talk specifics. If you want to make your own character, you'll talk to them about what kind of uh, requirements they might have. Some might not be comfortable with running outside of the core ancestries or classes. Some might be like, go wild, be a Kenrasu summoner for all I care. uh, we'll see how it goes. Um, or you might just say like, I want to play a pre-generated character, and then that's good for the game master to know, so that they can drag and drop the pre-generated character onto your uh, profile when you go into the VTT. And they'll also give you the virtual tabletop information that you need to actually get on and play. On game day, every game will be hosted in our voice video place, which is the Here Be Dragons channel. The game master will click it, and all you have to do is find your game master and click them, and the space is created. No need to go to some stranger's private Discord channel. No need to, become friends with people you don't know. Everything is going to be one and done. And then, of course, if you want to continue your adventures, that's awesome. Hope that works out because I would love to see more people who start playing with the beginner box keep their adventure going with Pathfinder 2e.
Okay, so one thing I want to note really quick before I move on to the next question is the resources that Pete just mentioned. I will be throwing links to those in the video description underneath this. So the process you just heard, if you don't know where to find that stuff, it will be in the description of this video. We will make sure you have that available. Um, and I would imagine if people have questions, the our Pathfinder Discord can answer a lot of those pretty quickly. So,
Yes.
um,
The whole community is very receptive to new people. Even on our subreddit, if you decide to go there and join up as a member, we have a weekly questions mega thread where you can ask any kind of questions from, just getting into Pathfinder to we encountered the spell. It's weird. What are we supposed to do about it? Any of those questions. The community is here to help you.
and the next question I had written down, I suspect I already know the answer to. I had written down what does a player need if they want to participate, but since this is all online and since this is all hosted, I imagine that there will be digital tools for dice and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So,
Players need very little. Even if they're playing the physical box, they really don't need to come with any more than a pencil to be able to write on the physical beginner box because, again, it gives you everything. It gives you character sheets, it gives you dice. Um, on the beginner box days, because everything is virtual, all you need to have worked out is what your virtual tabletop is, and your game master will have needed to given you access early enough where you can create a character through that virtual tabletop so that you're ready to play.
okay.
Everything else, though, is going to be ready for you. We have worked to make this the most accessible that we possibly can. It is free for players to play. If any GM is charging you, do not play in those games because they're not doing what we told them to do. Um, and then we give you access to other resources if you want to continue to play. For instance, everyone who plays the beginner box, whether they want to go into Pathfinder Society or not, can get a chronicle sheet generated for Pathfinder Society. What Pathfinder Society is it's Pathfinder all over the world. You get to take a character, whether you're playing at your local game store, convention, a different continent. It works the same way everywhere. The beginner box chronicle sheet gives you extra gold, extra reputation, and extra adventure points so that you can create a more customized character than if you were coming into it totally from scratch. So if you want to continue with Pathfinder Society, the beginner box is also going to give you a little extra boost as well.
All right. So the next question I have is about how long does it take to play the beginner box adventure? And I know you mentioned that there's two levels, so it's
Yes,
probably a question of if they're doing one, the other, or both. But about
yes.
how much time would someone be setting aside to do this?
Ideally, you should set aside about 4 hours of your day to play. Uh, that is the standard time in which single sessions of Pathfinder are made, with a balance of four characters. If you have less, it might go faster, just because you guys go through initiative quicker, or it could go faster with more players because you beat up the the encounters a little bit quicker. But 4 hours is generally the recommended amount of time that you want to set aside for each level. Each level is an entire adventure of its own, but you can easily complete it from start to end within a 4 hour scope. I played beginner box levels where it went beyond that. I've played beginner box levels where it was much shorter than that. It all depends on how you end up playing, but that's the initial time commitment you're going to want to make sure that you have available. Um, I will note that on RPG Chronicles.net, on the player sign up section, we have it so that times display in your local time zone. So you don't need to do any converting of like Pacific time to Greenwich Mean Time or anything like that. Uh, you will see it on the time that reflects your schedule. So if you need to play one beginner box session at 2 o'clock in the morning for whatever crazy reason you're up that late, you can do that and then play the other level at 1 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. We want to make sure that you can work it into your schedule as best as you can.
Okay, so next question I have is, let's say someone is brand new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition or even brand new to tabletop RPGs in general. What are some tips or suggestions that you would give to someone who their first experience is going to be this beginner box day?
Sure. So, uh, if you are completely new to tabletop roleplay games, let's start from that space. The first thing that you need to know is that Pathfinder is a cooperative roleplay tabletop game. What that means is that you are going to assume the role of a specific character with specific abilities, and you are going to roll dice to see uh, whether you succeed or fail at whatever you want to do. The main one is the D20 dice. It's a 20 sided dice. It's the big one, and it'll already be added to any VTT that you end up playing on. Uh, that is going to be your main thing to roll skills, to roll attacks, to roll saving throws. Those are the big three categories of rolls for you to keep in mind. Skills are what you do to accomplish just about anything that isn't hitting another creature. If you're trying to climb, that's going to be a skill check. If you're trying to swim, that's going to be a skill check. If you're trying to unlock a door, that's going to be a skill check. And your GM is, on the whole, going to make the call for what you need to roll. Next to every skill, there's going to be a modifier. So +1, +2, +3. And you're going to add that to your D20 roll. Depending on how well you roll, you're going to add your modifier and see if that beats or meets or exceeds the difficulty class for whatever you're trying to accomplish. So, say you're trying to climb a really rocky wall. The GM might decide that's a DC 18 athletics check. And that's what they're going to say to you. Roll athletics for me. So you're going to look on your character sheet. You're going to see a space that says athletics. And next to it's going to be a number. Hopefully it's not 0, but sometimes it could be. So depending on what that number is, it might be, you know, uh, as low as 0, could be as high as 8 or 16 or something like that. It can go up pretty high at big levels, but at basic levels, it's going to be like between 1 and 5, about, or 6. Uh, so you're going to roll your d20. The fun part, you're going to see the result. If it's 12 and you have a modifier of 6, you add that together for 18. What do you know? That beats the AC of 18, and you succeed. The thing, though, about Pathfinder to know is that there are also things called critical successes. In the uh, pop culture sphere, you probably know them as natural 20s. That's when you roll the highest possible number that you can, and that generally means you automatically succeed at whatever you want to do, or you do it better than what you could have on a regular success. Uh, Pathfinder has another means to get critical successes, which is when your roll outcome exceeds the DC by 10. That works for striking other creatures against their armor class. That works for skill checks. That works for saving throws. If it meets or exceeds 10, you get a critical success. So that means that you could get a critical success on rolls of 12, rolls of 18, depending on how good your modifier is. So that gives you that much more opportunity to do really well with your rolls. And then, of course, I've mentioned the other kinds of rolls, attacks, which is where you're going to have a weapon and you're going to strike against a creature's armor class. It works exactly the same as DC. We're just using different words to describe it, armor rather than difficulty. Same thing for saving throws. That is going to be a roll that you're going to have to make against some kind of effect, mostly spells. So if your GM says, give me a will saving throw, you're going to find the box that says will, you're going to see the modifier, and you're going to make the same d20 roll and add that together. So the process is really easy. You look at the character sheet, you're just going to see a lot of numbers, but those are just reference numbers for you. The core mechanic is just rolling a dice and adding a number to it, and that's it. The other thing to know about Pathfinder specifically, especially for those who are coming from the well-known game Dungeons and Dragons, is that Pathfinder has a 3-action economy, which means that on your turn, mostly during combat, you have 3 actions that you get to spend. Every action that you get to do has a little diamond shape between 1, 2, or 3, symbolizing the number of actions that it takes to accomplish that. So if you want to stride 3 times, which is, running, you can do all 3 actions to stride. You can do all 3 actions to strike, which is the mechanic to hit things. You could do a spell, which typically costs 2 actions, and then you have 1 action left over to do something. You could move. You could try to hide. You could try to aid someone else. So it gives you a lot of diversity and choice into what you do on your turn. The final thing I'm going to mention is that on attack rolls, things that specifically have what's called the attack trait have a multiple attack penalty, which means that if you roll your first roll for an attack, you're going to get to have the full result of whatever it is that you end up rolling as, whether you succeed or fail. On your second roll, you're going to take a -5. And then on your third attack roll, you're going to take a -10. If that's what you want to do, which is why the piece of advice that I am giving you as an experienced Pathfinder player is try to figure out different things to do for those attacks. I know that coming into this game, seeing I can hit things 3 times seems really, novel. And, do that a couple times, get it out of your system. But because of that multiple attack penalty, it's a thing to encourage you, the player, to try different things. That can be trying to help out other players by, for instance, trying to intimidate another creature. That's a single action that does not have the attack trait, meaning that on your third turn, your third action, you could roll to intimidate, scare the other creature, and that will lower its DCs for everyone else. You could also move. And if you move, that means that the creature who wants to hit you back also has to move because all creatures get 3 actions as well. So that uses a bit of their action economy up as well. So when you're looking at these 3 actions and you're like, oh, there's so much I can do, remember, there is a lot that you can do. You don't just have to attack, you shouldn't just stand there. Uh, do a lot of cool things. Let your imagination go wild. And if there's not something that has a specific action, just let your GM know what you want to do, and they'll give you a number to roll against.
So, kind of as a follow up question to that, um, for new players, are there any good resources that you would recommend that they could check out between now and the beginner box days to maybe learn a little bit more about the game or to help prepare themselves for the game?
Absolutely. Uh, so if you don't have the physical beginner box at hand and can't read the player's guide, the first resource that I recommend is called the Pathfinder Primer, which is on Pathfinder Nexus. Pathfinder Nexus is I hate to always have to draw this comparison, but the D&D Beyond of Pathfinder. It's the really nice online tool to be able to use for Pathfinder. And the primer is a book that has the exact same kind of information that you would get from the player guide in the physical beginner's box. So that's something if you want to read an actual book style resource that gives you the basics of how to play Pathfinder. The resource that is a favorite among everyone is the official system reference document for Pathfinder, which is the Archives of Nethys. That is a free resource that has literally every single mechanical aspect of Pathfinder on it. There's not going to be too much lore. There's a little bit, but in general, stuff that is considered, uh, uh, special to Paizo's content. There's a word for it. I'm forgetting. That's not going to be on there, so you're not going to get in-depth information about the gods or regions of Galarian, but you're going to find information about every single ancestry, every single ancestral feat, every single class feat, every single piece of equipment, every single spell. Everything is going to be on Archives of Nethys, so that you never have to purchase a book at all if you don't want to. Though I still recommend buying the books because they're great and they support a great company that makes a great game. So that is a resource for you. Archives of Nethys actually made a new player specific page that has guidance on what is rolling up a character, what is the ancestry. So that is another document for you to be able to read to learn how to play Pathfinder. Then there are, of course, the community. Our Pathfinder 2E is the one that I will always plug. The Pathfinder subreddit is the largest community of Pathfinder players anywhere on the internet, and they are very open and welcoming, and they want to help you play this game because they love this game. There are also content creators. One of my favorites is How It's Played. Dave produces these excellent videos that are all about specific mechanics. So if you want to learn how to use the sneak action or the stealth action to its most effective, he has an entire series about the various degrees of stealth and lighting and how that interacts. It's like taking a college course on Pathfinder.
His his stealth video is one of the videos I am most thankful for.
Yes.
I messed up the stealth rules when I started this game. I completely misread them. I thought they were terrible. I was like, Paizo, how did you come up with this? And then I watched his video and I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Hey
Completely
guys.
takes the blinders off. he makes fantastic videos. I'm really thankful for the counteract video that he made because that I think is the worst designed part of the game, and it is still a very well designed system once you actually understand what it's trying to do. It's just a little hard to wrap your mind around it. Everything else, though, it's not that he makes these videos like as long or as in depth because these are hard concepts. It's just that he's very thorough in how he talks about them. Uh, so that's what makes them such an invaluable resource. And of course, I have my podcast, Rise of the Rulelords, uh, which I have three. My first three episodes are the most listened to. It's an introduction to Pathfinder, introduction about how to play Pathfinder, and an introduction about how to game master for Pathfinder. I also have episodes about third-party products, more stuff about Pathfinder like actions and conditions. Hopefully, I find the time to get back to making those kind of podcast episodes, but that's a resource for you as well. So there is no limit, I would say. There's technically a limit, but there are ample options for you to learn how to play this game, whether it's for free, whether it's something you feel like buying, or supporting content creators in making the things that they like, that you like to watch. Hopefully, you're supporting your Patreon. I don't have one. I couldn't stand the stress.
My Patreon is the majority of the tiny amount of money that my channel brings in. So, thanks, guys. My number one Patreon, or my number one patron that I'll go ahead and shout out, I'm sure none of you all can guess who this really is. Their screen name is the greatest mother-in-law in the world.
Aw, good job, greatest mother-in-law in the world. You're the best.
But for anyone who is looking for some of these resources, so just like I mentioned with the how to sign up for the beginner box days, I will also be throwing links to several of the resources we've mentioned in the video description, so you can check those out as well. Last question I have for you, and by the way, spoiler warning for new players. Now I want to talk to game masters who might be running the beginner box for the first time. Do you have any tips or tricks for game masters who this might be their first time running the beginner box or participating in the beginner box day?
Yes, I do. And for any players who are still listening past this point, avert your ears until the time that maybe you'll be able to add onto the video right here. And wait. Okay, they're gone now. All right, Game Masters, let's wrap. So, first thing that you're going to want to know about running the beginner's box is that you should have a table from Archives of Nethys favorited on your browser. I have this up every single time that I game master because it is so useful, and that's table 10-5, DCs by level. This is going to be a tool that helps you determine what the DC for anything should be whenever your players come up with a crazy idea and you don't know exactly what the DC for it should be. For level 1, the DC is 15. However, if you want to make it more difficult, you can add +2. If you want to make it easier, you subtract 2. If you want to make it real hard, you add 5. Or real easy, subtract 5. So I would always have this open for you whenever you can. Second off, is be ready to explain this game to new people. You are in the beginner's box, not just taking up the role of game master, but also teacher, educator. When someone has a question about how a feat works, you should be able to talk about how that feat works. If someone has a question about a condition, you should be able to answer a question about that condition. And the answer to any of those questions isn't memorizing the rules of the book. It's knowing where you can find resources about those. So, for example, I players grapple all the time. All the time. They always want to grab a creature and hold it down. Grapple comes up at least 2 or 3 times in a game, and I always forget what the check is and what the DC is against. You'd think I would have it memorized. I keep saying I should have it tattooed on my arm, but it's an athletics check against your fortitude DC. The reason that I know that is because just literally right now, I looked it up on Archives of Nethys. You just need to be able to know what to look up and where to look it up on. Archives of Nethys or Pathfinder Nexus both have free rules on there, so you could use either tool to look those up or the compendiums in whatever VTT you're using. Uh, so let's talk about the final fight because uh, that is a killer. You are, as a GM, are probably going to have a good time running counters that you have. They're moderate at best. Usually, there's a couple severes thrown in, but they're usually ones players can overcome. Then there's the Dragon Wormling.
I've heard rumors.
Yeah. This is the dungeon in the dragon, or the dragon in the dungeon that players get to fight in the beginner's box. You might be thinking, wow, that is crazy to have level 1 characters go up against a dragon. And it is. You should blame Jason Bowman for that. But it's
That
not,
sounds like Jason.
it's very Jason. But it's not an insurmountable encounter. First off, you need to make sure that your players are at level 2 by the time that they encounter this dragon. If you don't feel like going through the mid level up, you should make the dragon weak, which you should be able to do automatically on any of those VTTs. That'll reduce all of the stats, the hit points, the AC, to make it so that it's a creature that can be encountered by level 1 parties. Otherwise, it needs to be a level 2 party that goes up against this dragon. The other thing I would say is remember that this dragon is a wormling, barely newborn. It's not even adolescent. It's essentially a toddler. So don't play this dragon optimally. Make the dragon run away. Make the dragon hide. Make the dragon do weird things like blow its breath not at the crowded group of 4 players, but at the single player way over there all by themselves. That is going to not only make the game fun, this final encounter really fun, by having the players need to run around this huge place where there's a bunch of mushrooms and everything. But it's going to make it so that it's one that they can actually win. Because if you play this dragon optimally, where it is just attacking every single time, it is targeting the healer first, or if you are running this like a intelligent creature with tactical ability, you will wipe out the party. It's a thing. And you as the GM should not want to wipe out the party. That's a stereotype that I think needs to go away. You want your players to have fun, which means that they should come out on top of this. They should be bloody. They should be sweating. They should be scared. But they should be alive by the end of it. So that's the biggest piece of advice for running the beginner box. The whole box scenarios from start to end do a very good job of leading you where you need to go. The descriptions for each room tell you what ACs players need to roll, tells you how to describe the rooms, even has tactics sometimes for some creatures. So you can just essentially read what is going on, do exactly those things, and you don't even need to prepare. I mean, you should still prepare. You should
Mm-hmm.
read the adventure beforehand at least. But you could open up this game on day one and just read each room and run the room as it's described, and you're going to do fine. Uh, the only last thing that I would recommend is on the first level, there is a coin puzzle. Uh, I don't know about Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, but I know for Foundry VTT, there is a module for that specific coin puzzle. Would very much recommend that if you have the beginner box installed, that you also add in that module so that you can run the coin challenge on the computer, or else have a couple of coins like on your desk, point the camera down, and use your hands as the coin puzzle weight
Mm-hmm.
things. When you read the puzzle, you'll understand what I'm saying. I'm trying not to speak too
Mm-hmm.
precisely in case there are those cheating players who are still listening, and you shouldn't be. But there you go.
So now that we are done talking terrible things about all the players who weren't listening through that spiel, welcome
Yes,
back,
now
guys.
players, you can come back. This is the point where you should be rewatching the video now. Don't go back until you have experienced beginner box days.
Um, that kind of covers all of the main questions that I had about beginner box days. And like I said, all of the resources that we've mentioned, those will be in the video description. But before we go, is there anything else about beginner box days that you want to share that you want people to be aware of?
Yes. So the first thing is that player registration is going to be open all the way until the game actually happens. But we are limited by the amount of game masters who choose to volunteer their time to run this game for you. So the sooner you register, the sooner that you claim your seat, uh, that is the closest guarantee to actually being able to play that you can get. Uh, there is no limit, however, on the amount of game masters that can choose to run this game. You can run the beginner's box with one player, you can run it with six. Um, GMs until April 17th. On the 17th, that is going to be our official cutoff day because that is also the official cutoff time for Paizo to give you a free PDF of the beginner box. If you go to beginpf2.com, there is a form there that just asks for a couple of basic bits of information. If you fill that out, uh, we'll be giving that to Paizo, who will be granting you, the GM, a free PDF of the beginner box. So that is quite a deal, especially when you consider that having the PDF already can discount things like the price of the beginner box module for Foundry VTT. I don't know that it discounts it for Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, but I can speak to Foundry. Uh, the only last thing that I will say about beginner box day is don't let this be the end of your Pathfinder adventure. Uh, I hope that you try it out. I hope that you love this game as much as I do, as much as hundreds of thousands of other people do. If that's the case, I know that core rulebooks are going to be shipping out again in April. They got sold out back during the OGL debacle, but they'll be back on bookshelves soon. Please go buy the core rulebook, support Paizo in their efforts so that they can keep making other things. But there are a number of ways you can keep on playing. First is Pathfinder Society. Already talked about that a little bit, but there are games all over the place, all over the world, in every region, happening online and in person. So we have resources about going onto Pathfinder Society and finding those lodges, those regions, those events, so that you can keep on playing, even if you can't find a local group. But also, our Pathfinder 2e has a space for GMs to advertise games that they're wanting to run, whether they're paid or free. And there's also a space for lonely players who want to join a game to post. And if it works out, a game master might reach out to you and say, "Hey, I've got Age of Ashes going on Thursday at this time that you mentioned. Do you want to join up with us, or whatever?" So we have resources for you to continue to play even after beginner box day. And if you loved beginner box days as much as I hope that you will, I hope that you too will take the opportunity to run the beginner box for other people. Whether it is you getting the VTT module on your own, or getting a physical beginner box and playing it with your already established group. I hope you will tell other people how great this game is. I hate to make it a evangelical thing, but the best way to try out a game is to actually try it out. That's where you're going to get the most accurate view of a game. You can combat the stereotype that Pathfinder is too hard, there's too much math, by actually sitting down and getting to play this game. So if you love Pathfinder, I really hope that you will continue your adventure through the R Pathfinder 2e subreddit or any of the other resources that I mentioned.
All right. Well, Pete, thanks again for coming on here today.
Thanks
Do
for
you
having me.
do you have any social medias or anything you'd like to plug before we sign out?
Yes. My main social media is Rulelord2e on everything. I'm currently mostly on Twitter until Elon Musk decides to change something again and inevitably makes the website implode, in which case I will find a new destination to migrate to. But I have already set up accounts on whatever social media website page to claim that spot so that if I have to move there, I will. But my podcast again is Rise of the Rulelords. You can rate it on Spotify and iTunes, or Apple Podcasts is what they're calling it now. Uh, so I hope that you will give that a listen. And if you find it useful, give it a rating and say that you enjoyed it. I Once beginner box day concludes, I really hope I have my plate cleared enough so I can get back to making the episodes people know and love, um, so that you can continue to learn Pathfinder in an audio medium. And then, of course, I am one of the mods at our Pathfinder 2e subreddit. We are quickly growing. We had 55K people in December of 22. OGL happened. Now we're at like 83,000. So this hobby is growing, and our Pathfinder 2e subreddit is the place to go to get to experience it. So find me there, find me on my podcast, find me on Twitter, and in any of those places, I will let you know what the next big exciting thing is in the Pathfinder world.
Well, Pete, thanks again for being here, and to everyone who is watching, thank you for being here as well. We invite you to jump down into the comments section and leave your thoughts and observations and questions that you might have about beginner box days. Jump down to the comments section, be a part of the conversation. But thank you for being here, and to everyone, have a wonderful day.
And don't let the rules rule you.